Hello, hello. I wanted to share with you how I create balance in my life. I'm going to go ahead and start wetting my paper while I talk. I found that I needed some extra balance this week, and I thought I would share with you how I create balance. So I'm using a quill. This is I'm hoping to make this more of a guided meditation than a how-to video. So like I said, I got out a couple of my art therapy books. I'm just moving water around my paper, and I found an exercise. The book is called 250 art therapy exercises for your patients. Anyways, I use that book for myself. Actually, I don't use it to teach. I'm not an art therapist, but I do love some of the art therapist's insights. So it was under the chapter of needing stress and relief, and or the anxiety part of stress. And I realized very early that I needed a lot more. I needed balance in my life. And in Katiri's Watercolors for Everyone book, she has a couple different examples of balance, of how to paint balance. What I'm doing is my own thing. It's not. I'm just getting the insights from that. So, anyways, to create balance, Katiri mentions that she likes to paint with two complementary colors. So, in my case, I'm using sap green. I'm just putting it on the paper, and I just want to be able to create balance for myself. And then I have Venetian red. These are core watercolors. They're professional watercolors. My plan is to not use a lot of red. I just want to really mix it in. I'm going to add a lot more green, but I want to create that balance. And I know that when I mix green and red, I get a muted color, which is kind of what I want. I want balance. I want to be able to tone down the green and tone down the red at the same time. And for me, that is the best way to create balance. So as I am painting, I am thinking about balance. What in my life is too intense, and what do I need more of? And right now, I'm also thinking about the political issues our country is facing, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm actually going to just add some red wherever I want. Again, this is my painting. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to let that color run. I think color meditation, art meditation, is just letting your creative spirit soar. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to add a little bit of splatter of green to that. And I'm just going to let that sit. The one thing that I forgot that I wanted to bring over is I have another palette. So less is more always, but I wanted to, there's this really pretty duochrome color from Daniel Smith, and I think it's called Sorago. And it has this pretty iridescent green, and when you put it on paper, depending on how you look at it, it becomes red or green. So I'm just sprinkling that on the paper as well. And I'm thinking about how even though too much of a good thing or not enough of the good, it can balance out. We can have balance in our life from the not so good things in our life and the good things in our life. And that's what I love about complementary colors. For the longest time, and I still am not a huge fan of green and red together. For Christmas, I don't like to create cards with green or red. I like to create with either just green or just red, but not together. So I'm going to let that go. This is the other part to the balance, and there's a couple water spots. I'm okay with that, is the actual painting of the balance, painting balance, or creating balance in my life. I have two different pens here. I have a Micron 0.5. It's black. It's archival ink, and I actually have this calligraphy pen that has a smaller nib and then a larger nib. I'm going to use the 0.2 size nib, and I'm going to the paint splatters. That's part of the balance, right? We can't have a perfect. Nothing is perfect in our life, and balance helps us realize that we can balance the hard things with the imperfections that are in our life. So when I think of balance, I always think of things that are growing, and one of my favorite things to draw is like leaf vines or sometimes I call them kelp forests, but that's not really what they are. But I always start with like 3 lines, and they cross each other sometimes. And then I just start doodling. And if I want a thicker line, I'll do that. Chinese painters are always looking for balance. So there's a thick line. I'm going to go with a less thick line. And I'm just moving my pen with the calligraphy knob. You can once you get used to your calligraphy lines, you can really get the thick and thin lines. And I think that's part of the balance that I love. And just letting your hand glide across the paper helps me find that peace, helps me. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing today. I'm in the moment. I am not thinking about necessarily my marks. I'm just letting the marks go however I think they will go. And if I don't like one leaf, that's okay, because I have a couple that I love. But I always like to find balance in the repetition of things. That's why I think baking is so powerful, because you're kneading the bread, you're watching the ingredients mix. That's a very creative process, and that process is not to be taken lightly. Yeah. And of course there's these lines, and they're going to cross, but that's part of the balance, is how do I want to use that line to go. Anyways, baking is very therapeutic for lots of people, because there's so many. You're using all your senses: smell, texture, taste, sight. It's all there. When I'm doing these meditations, I add essential oil. I have a creative blend from Aurora Acacia that I really love, and it has citrus, bergamot in it, and I think some vetiver, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember, but I just love it. It just smells good. It makes me happy. It helps me be calm. I know chamomile is in there, and that helps calm me down. I have a lot of, I don't want to say anxiety, but I have felt the pressures of just feeling stressed. And I don't like those feelings. I always wish there was just a way to just do some art to relieve those feelings. And for me, this exercise helps me. So you might be wondering, why am I using a pen for this when I just got done painting? I'm going to be painting this in just a second. I like this. I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. And now I can, and it's archival. This is archival pigment ink, waterproof. So I really like this pen. I've had this pen for like 10 years now, so it's my well-loved pen. Now I could go back in and just kind of add a couple more leaves like this, but I don't necessarily need to. But if you feel like you have 2 pins, you can. It's all about feeling peace. And if adding a little bit more detail is going to make you happier, and if this is too loose and too free, you're doing it right. There's no wrong way to do this. Doodling at its core, at its very nature, is to just help your mind to calm down. And there's so much intense feelings right now in the world that it's just nice to calm down. So I used core watercolor in the last one. I'm going to use one of my favorite colors, and that's Cascade green. And then I'm going to use I'll use this Quinn Gold as well. No, actually, no, I'm going to use, I also like purple and green together. And let's say this is more at night. So I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to add my beautiful purple. This is a Daniel Smith Imperial purple. And I'm adding it. It's just gorgeous. I'm going to add a lot more to the dark, to the corner, kind of. Again, balance. There's a lot of wonderful things about artists use balance a lot, and I've actually been studying a lot on MC Escher and taking a class with Alexis Levine, and she, I forgot about MC Escher and how everything was balanced in his artwork, like everything. And so it's really fun to study other artists and use art history as a way to bring peace and balance to your life. I think the reason why Van Gogh his colors are so beautiful because he used color therapy in his paintings. There's no doubt in my mind that he didn't. And I think painting for him was a way to get rid of that mental illness that he had. And that's what a wonderful gift that he had, and that he used it to share the world. That's what I always think. I love the Imperial purple with the Cascade green. Now I'll let that dry. And I'm already feeling more balanced in my life. I'm feeling a bit more calmer, a bit more peaceful. I think I could let this dry and be just happy with it. I don't take my paper. People will sometimes ask me if I take my paper. Very rarely will I will. I don't necessarily need it to tape down. I don't mind that it curls up. It's not. Maybe later I will. I'm going to add some of this. I like to splatter, and it brings me joy to splatter. So if splattering brings you joy, do that. And then, of course, I'm going to add some splatter to my green. There. I like that. I like letting it do its own thing. All right, I'm going to let that dry. This is pretty dry, and you can see that there is this beautiful iridescent look that we got from that, from this color right here. It's the Daniel Smith Sarago Desert. All right, and now I'm going to doodle on this one, and I will use my micron pen for this. And again, I think for this one, the other way I like to do balance is by drawing in a pattern. And again, it's very therapeutic, but I don't want to start in the middle. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to work my way out. And I'm going to have kind of this weird trapezoid oval shape. You can make whatever shape you want. But that's the shape I'm going with. And I will turn my paper a lot, and I'm okay with that. So I started with 3, and now I'm just going to work out like a rose. And this is doodling, and I'll let the lines work for you. Don't, if you stop midway through, that's okay. Try not to. I always like to have a continuous line. I do break after each petal. This just helps get my mind off of so many things that I can't control. It's looking more like a rose than a succulent, but that's okay. I'm going to bring a little bit more balance over on this side. And there's one succulent. Maybe I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do little like petals. And I'm not going to make them so curvy, because succulents don't always have a lot of curve, but they do have a really fun, I just like doodling in a radial repetition. It just makes me happy. And there's no wrong or right way. I do like to connect the two petals from the middle or from the bottom. And now I'm going back to the same shape that I was in. So I'm going to stop that. And I can keep going on, but this brings me joy, and it brings me a lot of peace. And I'm not going to, this is just for me. I will probably put it in my art journal, and maybe I'll write in it. Sometimes I like to write on my art therapy pieces, but oftentimes I just leave them alone, and it's my work. I don't need to share it to anybody. I like this one. And then I can go back in and color it if I wanted to, which is my plan. So let's try again with my more oval size shapes. And this time I think I'm just going to be a little bit more looser. Why not? It's my own artwork, and I'm trying to find balance, and I am finding balance, but the other two just made me, it wasn't as fun as this one. That's because and that one's fun. That one's actually, I like that one. And now if you are getting into the other flower, succulent, whatever you're calling this, you just work around those lines. There's no wrong way. This one has I think succulents are so popular because they are so geometric. There's so much geometry to them. And they're fun to look at. Okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to add more petals to this. So they're all connected. It's all balanced. I am not a botanical illustrator, so I don't know what these would be called, but they're really fun. And you could keep doing this the whole way. However, my plan is to not. I got my little underpainting going. And now what I want to do is I just want to add a little bit of the green. I want it to, well, what I'll do is I'm just going to wet the succulent. And now I'm just going to drop in some red wherever I feel like dropping in some red. And it's already wet, so the red's going to do its own thing. Now I can just add more of the dark green to it. Maybe right there. Yeah, I like that. That's going to look pretty. All right, and then what I always like to do is I want my flowers to pop a bit more. And I want that texture. So I'm going to add water. And again, it's all about bringing balance. I got this beautiful thing happening up here, and I want things to just look different. So I'm going to add a lot more darker green. This is just sap green from Core. It whooshes on the paper, which I love. And I am adding a lot of green, but I like the green because it's muting the red underneath is muting that green. But then I'm going to go back in where that red was, and I'm going to add it some more, and that's going to give me that dark brown, red, rich color that I like. I don't really want the green. I want the green to tone down, and I want the red to tone. And when you add those two together, you get a beautiful neutral color. Okay, there it is. I can keep going on. So then good things happen when we have a balanced life, and I hope that our country can start becoming more balanced. I hope the pandemic can we can balance our lives with the pandemic. That's really what my hope is, because we can't change the virus. It is what it is, but we can change how we perceive it and how we go about living our lives. And for me, that takes a lot of balance. Anyways, I just enjoy art therapy, and I hope that you can find joy in creating something beautiful when you have that extra time. There we go. And now what I can do, it's a little shiny, and that's why my camera doesn't want to focus, but it's going to dry, and I might add another layer or two just to pop those succulents out. But we got two completely different versions, and I'm grateful that I spent the time to create some art today. And I might make this a little bit more purple, but I'm just loving all the colors that are coming from the tube. And that is what balance is all about, is finding the good with the bad and making lemonade out of lemons. So I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful color meditation, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.